Hi everyone, yasas que Carlos Sirtate to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to teach you how to make Pecan Linzer Shortbread Cookies. They are perfect if you're making little holiday cookie boxes. They're great to make for a coffee date or something like that, or even to serve after a nice party. These are just so good and so easy to make. Let's get started. All right, so in the bowl of a tabletop mixer that's fitted with a paddle attachment, I'm going to go ahead and add 3/4 pound, which is 3 sticks of unsalted butter that's nice and soft. If you forgot to take your butter out, you can pop it in the microwave for a few seconds. Just be careful not to melt it. Then I'm going to add a little bit of salt, just a 1/4 teaspoon, a little pinch, 1/2 cup of confectioner sugar and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, and 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Get that beating on low speed until everything is combined, and then you can increase the speed to high so you can get nice and fluffy. And in the meantime, I have 1.5 cups or 150 grams of whole pecans. I'm just going to pulse them in this food processor until they're finely ground, and I don't toast them ahead of time in the oven or anything like that, because I find that sometimes if you toast them in the oven and then you put them in the batter, if you toast them a little too much, your cookies will taste burnt, so they get toasted in the batter anyway. I'm just going to pulse that again, like I said, until it's finely ground, and just set that aside. Over here I have 3.5 cups or 500 grams of all-purpose flour. Be careful not to add more flour than that, otherwise your dough will be really crumbly and hard to roll out. Your cookies will fall apart. So once the butter mixture is ready, you can go in with a spatula and just scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl so that way everything incorporates easily. Begin adding the flour a little bit at a time, and then reserve about 1 cup of it and just toss the chopped pecans in the flour mixture and add that to the mixer as well, and mix that over medium speed until your dough is ready. Lightly flour your work surface and transfer the dough to your work surface, and then roll it out to about 1/4 inch in thickness. If you roll it out any thicker than that, usually I roll out shortbread cookies to be 1/2 inch thick. I like them nice and thick, but since these Linzer cookies are going to be sandwiched together, if you roll them out too thick, they'll be a little hard to eat. Still delicious, but I like them on the thinner side. Transfer the cookies onto a baking tray that's lined with parchment paper, and if you've noticed, this parchment paper has already been used to make cookies, and I'm going to reuse it so we don't waste it. I've been baking cookies for the past few weeks for writing different posts and making different videos, and I just like to reuse the parchment paper if I can. So for the first batch of cookies that I've cut out, I've used these beautiful little cookie cutters that I found on Amazon. They're especially for making Linzer cookies, and it comes with this big beautiful one with a decorative edge, and then there are little mini cutouts. There's a heart, a little gingerbread man, a star, and then there used to be a little Christmas tree, but it accidentally fell in my garbage disposal and it no longer exists. It just got all mangled, so I threw it out. So for the first tray, I'm going to cut out the center of all these cookies. They're going to be the tops. You can use one kind of cookie cutter, like stars or just all gingerbread man, or you could do a nice selection of them. And then I'm going to keep the little centers to make mini cookies. If you want to, you can reincorporate the little centers like the stars or the gingerbread man or the hearts back into your dough to keep rolling it out. But if you want the little cookies, you can leave them in the pan like I'm doing. Then I'm just going to take all of the remaining dough that's left over, and I'm going to keep rolling it out and keep putting cookies on the pan. One pan I'll cut out, and the other pan I'll just leave plain because the bottom doesn't need a cutout to it. You're going to need about 3 or 4 trays to make these cookies. Try to leave a little bit of space between them so that way they don't stick together. They might expand a little bit while baking. So once you assemble the cookies, it's time to chill them in the freezer. If you're going to be baking them right away, you do have to chill these for at least 15-20 minutes if you're chilling them in the freezer. If you don't have room in the freezer and you're putting them in your refrigerator, go for 30-40 minutes, just so that way they have time to set. That's going to help them keep their shape. And then if you want to make these ahead of time, you could just leave them in your freezer until they're frozen solid. And then you can transfer them to freezer-safe bags or containers, and they will keep fresh in your freezer for 1 or 2 months. You can just take them out and put them on parchment paper lined baking trays and bake them off as you need them. The oven should be preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and these are going to bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. If you're doing 2 trays at a time, I suggest that you rotate the trays, that you rotate the pans halfway through cooking. The top ones tend to get a little bit browner than the middle rack. You're looking for them to get nice and golden around the edges and still sort of pale in the center, even though I do like to bake mine a little bit longer till they're almost golden all around, just not too dark. I feel like they taste better that way. They're a little more crisp. Once they come out of the oven, you're gonna let them cool completely. And then the tops with the cutouts are gonna get some powdered sugar, actually lots of powdered sugar on top. And this is the time to do it, because if you put the powdered sugar on them after you put the jam on top and you sandwich them together, the jam will be white too and they just won't be as beautiful. So if you forget to do it, it's fine. Otherwise, do that step first, set them aside, and now it's time to sandwich them together. I'm using apricot jam, but you can use your favorite jam. Raspberry is a popular one. Strawberry, I know there are some mixed fruit jams. Whichever one you like, you could put in between. You could even put chocolate hazelnut spread, like a Nutella or something like that in here. Even ganache would be really nice. I'll leave it up to you. Just flip the bottom cookies over so you have a smooth side, and put some jam in there, about a tablespoon of it, since these are big cookies. It really depends on how big your cookies are. Just put a nice thin layer of jam onto the cookie, and then you're gonna take the tops and press them slightly so that way they glue together. It is best to let these set a little bit for at least an hour, then the jam won't be oozing out of them. Now, the best way to store these once you make them is in an airtight container at room temperature. They'll keep fresh for a week, but they will taste best the first few days. After a few days, the crispness will go away. They'll still taste good. They'll still be way better than store-bought, but the best flavor you're gonna get when they're first made, the first 1 or 2 days. So of course I'm using festive shapes for the cutouts, but you can make these with whatever shape you have or whatever shape you like. Circles are really common, so you don't have to even go out and buy special cookie cutters for this. You can just use 2 cookie cutters, a big one and a small one, to cut out the shapes. You can get creative with it. Let me know how you're making them in the comment section down below. Just make sure you make some coffee and you serve these to your guests. Time for the taste test. So the jam is kind of oozing out of them right now because I literally just filled them. Like I said, it is best to let them sit for at least an hour so that way the jam can set, but I'm not complaining. Unbelievably good. You can taste the pecans in there. They get toasted in the oven. If you want to, you can put half a teaspoon of almond extract in these to get more of a nutty flavor. But they are perfect if you ask me, buttery, crisp, and just so good. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. You can print it out on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Let me know if you have any recipe requests down below. And if you want to get my holiday cookie box guide, it's on the website, dimitrasdishes.com as well. You can head on over and read it and get a good idea of how to make a beautiful cookie box. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, Ess.